Good day, everyone. For Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin this midday in Mexico.
Mexico's Senate received on Tuesday a package of constitutional reforms as part of President Enrique Peña Nieto's public security overhaul that seeks to nullify the political autonomy of municipal governments when corruption is suspected in local police.
Corruption exists within all of the police forces, within the 3 levels of government, and not just at the local level.
A group of senators from opposition-left parties downplayed the president's proposal, viewing it as a form to quiet widespread popular social discontent that sparked more than 2 months ago with the forced disappearance of the 43 Ayotzinapa students.
There
is a need for justice to triumph over the impunity and corruption that has arisen between the authorities and organized crime.
Yet, it appears that the president's proposals have been unable to shutter the protests and public outrage. Demonstrators echo a common sentiment that the responsibility of corruption goes all the way to the top.
They abuse their power, and that's why we're against them. We're mobilizing to put an end to those rats.
The next major mobilization is scheduled for December 6th, with the ever-growing demand for Peña Nieto's ouster, as well as the return alive of the 43 Ayotzinapa students. Clayton Khan, Telesur, Mexico City.
We go now to Colombia. That's where peace talks between the government and FARC rebels remain stalled. Negotiators from both the government and the FARC met again on Tuesday to discuss the possibility of a final round of talks before the end of the year. President Manuel Santos says President Manuel Santos says the government is evaluating the progress of the peace process before renewing it. The FARC, on the other hand, continues to propose a bilateral ceasefire. The president so far has refused that ceasefire. We go now to Bogota, where our correspondent Charles Parkinson has the latest on the stalled peace talks.
Today marks the second day of discussions between representatives of the Colombian government and members of the peace delegation of the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia in their attempt to reinitiate peace talks that were suspended over 2 weeks ago following the capture of General Ruben Dario Alzate, who was released on Sunday. When President Juan Manuel Santos announced these discussions, he said he hoped they'd only take a couple of days for an agreement to be made. Now, what will an agreement involve? Well, a lot of people are suggesting that any agreement will involve measures to de-escalate the conflict. So we can hope that if later on today there is an announcement made on the reinitiation of the talks, it will also involve such measures. Charles Parkinson in Bogota, Colombia.
And we turn now to Venezuela. That's where outgoing Uruguayan President Jose Mujica is visiting his Venezuelan counterpart Nicolás Maduro. The two plan to renew bilateral economic agreements. Venezuela is Mujica's first visit during his tour of Latin America. For his part, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro referred to both Mujica and the Uruguayan President-elect Tabaré Vázquez as, quote, great friends of Venezuela. And for more now on Mujica's visit here in Venezuela, we go to our correspondent here in Caracas, Rachel Boothroyd.
Thanks, Cody. Yesterday, outgoing Uruguayan President Jose Pepe Mujica arrived here in Venezuela, where later on today he is expected to meet with his Venezuelan counterpart Nicolás Maduro in order to discuss bilateral cooperation between the two countries. Now, the visit is the first stop in Mujica's Latin American tour, which will also see him travel to Ecuador and Mexico to take part in the UNASUR and Ibero-American summits. The tour is also for Mujica to say goodbye to other Latin American heads of state before he hands the Uruguayan presidency over to Tabaré Vázquez, also a member of the Broad Front left-wing coalition. I'm Rachel Boothroyd reporting for Telesur in Caracas, Venezuela.
Moving now to Ecuador and meetings scheduled for the Union of South American Nations. The port city of Guayaquil is host to an international meeting this Tuesday in which leaders and representatives from the area will discuss regional integration. The heads of state of UNASUR countries are expected to join the meeting on Thursday before heading to the capital of Quito for the inauguration of the new UNASUR headquarters. And in Lima, Peru, the Climate Change COP20 summit continues. On Wednesday, Bolivia will present a new proposal for forest conservation. The Bolivian initiative seeks to counter market-driven conservation schemes. The proposal was formed using the example of several successful community projects. Meanwhile, social and environmental movements are carrying out their own summit. The Parallel Summit is meant to include groups and issues which are not being incorporated into the COP20 summit. Staying on the topic of environmental action in Central America, small rural farmers in Honduras are demanding that the government take measures to counter climate change effects. The farmers took to the streets to demand that the government implement measures to combat pollution. The farmers also request more funding for small agricultural projects which are more environmentally friendly. They also tend to improve the economic well-being of the rural poor. Staying in Honduras, impunity has only grown in the Central American nation since the coup d'etat which overthrew the democratically elected Manuel Zelaya in 2009. For more on the state of the justice system there, we go to Gerardo Torres.
From 2010 to 2013, Honduras saw over 27,000 homicides, but only 1,009 court convictions, meaning a 96% impunity rate. This comes from one of the many reports that the Inter-American Human Rights Court has released this week in Honduras.
Reports like this show a level of impunity greater than 90%, and this is information backed up by the OAS and the United Nations. They highlight that the institutions responding to impunity, or in this case not at all, as well as the system of justice, need to do something. Also, the Inter-American Commission makes it clear that it is not only human rights that have huge problems, but it should be remembered that the impunity in human rights cases is around 98 to 99%.
During the visit of the Inter-American Court, the Honduran government was trying to hide the fact that its human rights record is one of the worst on the continent. But for Berto Oliva, of the Committee of Families of Detained and Disappeared, an organization fighting for 32 years to clarify the role of the military and death squads since the 1980s, impunity is becoming a worse and worse problem.
This is the monster that we have. In Honduras, this means those who have gone unpunished in the past are the ones who are talking of fighting against impunity today. They are responsible for impunity in the past and in the present. They are saying we should fight impunity, that it is immoral, that it shouldn't have been allowed because it will ruin us as citizens.
In Honduras, there is almost a complete lack of proper criminal investigations, and organized crime has penetrated the military, police force, as well as the judicial system, exacerbating the problem of impunity. But many hope that this week's report by the Inter-American Court can at least shed some light onto this problem. Gerardo Torres, Telesur, Central America.
Thanks to Gerardo. In world news, we go to Ukraine. That's where an accident in a nuclear power plant on Wednesday is raising concerns. However, according to Kiev, the accident in the southeast of the nation has presented no threat to the country or its neighbors. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian government accused rebels in the eastern region for breaking an agreed-upon ceasefire at Donetsk airport. The site, which has seen the worst shelling since September's truce, was meant to be cleared of fighting on Wednesday, but media reports say shelling can still be heard. Finally, to Israel we go, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that he will ask the parliament to be dissolved and will call for elections. The decision comes after Netanyahu expelled the finance and justice ministers for not backing his government's policies. The expulsion of both ministers caused a rupture in the five-party governing alliance. As always, we have plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle.